Well, I should officially kick off this podcast.
Let's
then.
kick it off.
Shall we kick it off? Because we can talk about... And thank you very much for my positive potato.
You are welcome.
That is very nice, very thoughtful of you. And it's great to see you today as
Really
well. So
good to
welcome
see
to
you
the
as well.
podcast. I guess for the audience, what we're talking about today is looking into the future, the crystal ball moment. What does a future fit financial planning business look like? So this is why we're going to be having this conversation. And it'd be good to look back in a few years to see whether we were right, wrong. But before we get into that, I would like to find out a bit more about you, because you've had quite an action-packed career today. You've packed a lot in. So for the people that don't know you, can you just give me or give us a bit more of an understanding of you and your journey into financial planning?
Yes, thank you. So financial planning has always been my life, James. I started in banking when I was 18, and then sort of throughout university I worked in Halifax Bank throughout uni and then joined Northern Rock afterwards. And then that was just before the credit crunch, so we were all made redundant. And one of my friends' dads said, "You'd be great at financial advice." And I didn't really know what it was, to be honest. But he said, "It's mainly talking to people, Vicky, and you've got an understanding of money." So I decided, right, I'm going to take a look at this. And what's the best route to go? I know I'll be self-employed with no exams, no clients, and we'll see what we make of it.
Wow.
And that's kind of been, I suppose, how I've always attacked my career. It's like, you've just got to go for it. You know, if you've got an idea, you've got a vision for what you want to do, you just go for it. So I worked really hard. I qualified as quickly as I could. I think I was one of the youngest qualified financial advisors at Openwork, which was where I started. And then my career in financial planning kind of progressed from there. I ended up being one of the owners and directors of a chartered firm over in York. We were part of a group of businesses that were all owned by a holding company. Very acquisitive group.
Yep.
So during my time there, I got to get involved in, board meetings and strategy, buying businesses and integrating those firms. And then one day I went to a board meeting and the guys said, "We've got an offer for the business and we think we're going to take it." And this was at the end of 2018, and that was a shock, because I was thinking, we were growing this thing, guys, where has this come from? And the idea behind it was, we'd kind of hit a ceiling. We were around 5 million turnover, 22 advisor group.
Yeah.
And we were going to have to make some significant investment to get us to where we wanted to be. And the decision was made at that point, there's a good number here. We're going to join a business that has kind of all the bits that we're looking for. And we as a board are going to lead the north of England for this financial advisor firm. And we're going to grow. So we sold to get in rather than to get out, if that makes sense. However, the reality of life post-sale was completely different to what we expected running up. It was heartbreaking.
Oh, tell me more then. That sounds sad.
I grieved because, just for sort of the listeners' benefit, when you sell, you provide a whole range of restrictive covenants, which you would expect, right? Because you're receiving a capital sum for your shares. And they can extend sort of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years post-completion. So my restrictive covenant was 3 years, and it was a case of you can't work for another financial planning firm or work in competition to the business that had bought us. So we were going to have to, I was going to have to stay working there. And I think we were maybe a month, 2 months into the journey with them, and I knew I can't work here. I felt like my wings were being clipped. I felt like there were things going on that were, 10, 15 years ago, kind of what I'd seen going on, and it just felt like we were moving backwards. So I made the super hard decision to hand in my notice. And I remember talking to my husband over Christmas and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a financial advisor. I've given my entire career pretty much to this. I'd studied and got to chartered level. I'd done my step exams. It were a real part of my identity was being a financial planner as well as being a business owner. And to make that decision to have to essentially step away from your career was a period of grief. I'll say nothing more than that. It was a period of grief. But I thought, right, what do I do now? Because one thing for sure is I love the profession. And I love what the profession brings to people. And when I look at the opportunity that's out there now and how many of the population we're able to touch due to advancements in technology and stuff, like the profession continues to excite me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to do something that's still involved, but also I reflected on, why did our sale go so wrong? And why, when I'm looking at stats in the papers and stuff, am I reading 70% of sellers are disappointed post-sale? And I kind of tracked it back to the whole journey we'd been on. We were not represented through the exit process. You only know what you know. So we didn't even realise where the gaps in our knowledge were. We took a lot of stuff on face value. And I wanted to offer a solution to financial planning business owners that could support them through their own exit, but with me on their side. Someone on their side that had been through the journey that they were going to go on, understood what it meant to run a financial planning business, understood that relationship you've got with your clients, and to operate in a way that would support them without any conflict or any bias to get the exit that they deserved. And so, yeah, I started up an exit firm 7 and a bit years ago now, and I had no clue at the start whether or not it was going to work. I thought I was probably going to see out my restrictive covenant period. I had advice firms knocking on my door anyway, saying, like, we'll have you. You know, there's obviously a demand for female advisors who are well qualified. But it did work. It did work, James. And I'm still here now.
This is it.
Growing the business.
Fighting the good cause.
Yeah, loving it.
Let's just go back a little bit, because that's a lot to unpack. There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
So when you reflect now, what did you learn about yourself? Because you mentioned the word grieving, because that's quite a strong emotive word. Yeah. So what did you sort of, learn most about yourself?
You've got to, I think what I realised was you have every single choice. Quite often people think that they don't have choices. And in that moment of, I don't want to be here, and looking at my contract, I felt like I didn't have a choice. And it was actually my husband who was like, you can do anything, And the skills that you've learned, not just through being an advisor, but through running a business, through managing people, through integrating firms, like, you've got a skill set here. And I'll give you the support, because we always support one another, like that's, we always have done throughout our relationship, to try to make something work. And you've just got to have conviction. So,
did you doubt yourself?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The pangs of doubt.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because I'm one of those people, I really like to know everything. And I was really proud when I was a financial advisor of how much I knew. And then when I wanted to do more in the trust space and in the private client space, like, I did more learning, because I'm like, I've got to know everything. And when you step into something new, you don't. And I think after that initial sort of excitement of, I'm doing this, I've got a brand, I've built a website, and then it's the reality of the phone's not ringing. And you've got to go out there and you've got to prove yourself to people. Yeah, I doubted myself a lot. And I remember, again, another conversation with my husband where he said to me, like...
He's getting some good praise,
He is getting some good praise. I hope he doesn't listen to this. I'm not telling him about this podcast, but no, he does. He deserves all the praise, because he said to me one day, you have got to remove the shackles of what you did before. He says, I know you loved it. I know it was a huge part of, like, who you are, but that's not you anymore, Vic. And if you remain anchored to the past, you're not going to be able to give everything to the future. And part of being anchored was actually being anchored to being a regulated person. So it wasn't just being anchored to my clients and that kind of career that I'd left behind. When you're in regulation for pretty much all of your career, you're always working a little bit with, within parameters.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I wanted to run a business that operated like it was in the Wild West, but I had a little bit more flex and a little bit more freedom to play around with the brands, to play around with the messaging. And it was him that sort of kicked me up the arse. Am I allowed to say arse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You can swear on this podcast.
Hey, right, okay.
We're in Leeds.
I'm just gonna ease people into it. But yeah, he did. He gave me a kick, And he says, you're not going to look, you can't look forward if you're constantly looking back. And he
So
was
you
absolutely
were a
right.
little bit shackled to the past then,
Yeah.
and obviously maybe conditioned a bit as well then within the regulated framework, because you have to be good, don't you?
Yeah.
So this gave you an opportunity to really branch out and be creative, because you were quite ballsy at the start, weren't you? You got into the industry, self-employed, got chartered. So there's always been that. Would you say there's been an entrepreneurial spirit behind yourself?
Oh, yes.
Wanting to come out?
I came up with business ideas when I was younger. I came up with checkertrade.com.
Did you?
Oh, like 15 years ago. I mean, obviously, just on a scrap of paper.
Yeah, it's gonna be in your head.
There's nothing that,
There's always somebody else who gets there first.
Oh, I've come up with loads of stuff when I was a kid. Gradient shoes, that was one idea I had.
What's gradient shoes?
To help people walk up hills who were struggling. I realised that as a lady, when we wear high heels, we can walk up hill easy, but we can't walk downhill easy. So I wondered if you could create some shoes that had heels at the front and the back.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, I've never had that problem.
I've come up with all sorts. Sunglasses, eye drops. That was another one because I don't like wearing glasses, so I didn't know why sunglasses, eye drops didn't exist. But look, I'm going off on a tangent, which is common.
Just keep going.
Which is common. But the point I'm making is, I think being an entrepreneur, I don't think is something you learn. I think it's something that you are, and I do definitely think there's a risk profile that goes along with it. So what I'm not going to suggest is that everybody, if you're not happy where you are or whatever, go and throw it all in the bin and go and do something totally different. I do recognise that, I'm a bit abnormal in some ways. But yeah, I can definitely think back to my childhood and recognise these little traits.
And would you say now that you are aligned with your purpose?
Yeah, we've got absolute clarity. My purpose for whilst I'm working. But my ambition is to stop working in financial services probably in the next 7 to 10 years or so, because actually I want a life outside of financial services. There's other things that I want to do.
What would you like to do?
I would like to foster.
Would you?
That's one of the things that I would really like to do. And I'd like to have the ability to do so when I've got a load of time. To be able to really wrap support around those people that need it, essentially. So yeah, and it's something that I'd like to do whilst I'm relatively young as well. So I've got the energy to be able to support them. And again, my husband's behind plans and stuff.
That's great. No, that's really interesting, because there is I saw a scheme in Leeds where. Because I had a conversation with my wife about fostering. We've got 2 kids, a bit older now. It's great. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I just saw it. I went into the gents and he said, have you thought about fostering? So I went home and said, about fostering. My wife was like, hang on a minute. We've just raised our 2. And I was like, yeah, but it's about maybe we can do something. And there's a scheme in Leeds where you can actually help and support disadvantaged children. I think it's once or twice a month that you are very much paired with them for a number of years. So I thought I might do that because that's the time I can commit, because you have to be with them. So it was part of a Leeds Active, the gym that I go to. It's just one of those posters, and I thought that's really interesting. But it's a massive commitment, just doing it once or twice
really is.
a month, and I don't want to do it, and then just dip out after 6 months because I've got some other commitments. So it's one of those things that I've thought quite carefully about am I ready to do that. So I guess it's that time commitment is a huge piece behind that.
They just deserve it, don't they? These poor children who've been let down and continue to be let down. Look, there's some amazing foster carers and stuff out there, but equally there are some really sad tales that come out of the care system too, and I think the more people that have the ability to be able to support these children, the better. And I'm a big one for giving back, always have been. I'm what I do feel all the time is I feel incredibly blessed for what I have, and I'm not the sort of person that wants for much. I want to be successful. I want to leave a mark on the profession. Like that is absolutely a given. But beyond that, I want to be happy and I want to give back. And if I can put myself into a position where I've got the time then to give back in that way. I'd also like to give back to new business owners and future business owners, wannabe business owners, you know, to sort of help and support and mentor. But I always think, wouldn't it be great to be able to do it and not require financial, you know, a financial benefit. It's just the freedom to do it and, to help others.
So let me ask you this question. What does success look like for you?
We've got a real clear vision for Mellow. My view is that if we can help build better businesses in this space, then by kind of default of that, we're building a better profession, which means that we're supporting more people to achieve financial education, financial well-being and financial, you know, betterment. And I'd love to be able to look back in the future and still see Mellow. You know, I'm not part of it anymore, but still see the business growing and thriving, you know, under new leadership. We've already got our eyes on the people in the business, you know, who are going to be the ones that will take it forwards beyond me. And for people for Mellow to be the first name on anyone's lips if we're talking about business growth or business exit. That's my mission.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Mellow then.
Yes.
And congratulations on your award.
Yes.
We were just talking, you know, beforehand. So that's really good.
I'm still hungover.
Yeah, did you? Did you have a few drinks then?
I didn't have as many as some.
Was it a heavy night?
I could tell you some stories, James. It was
only
a night.
Me and you in this room.
It was a night.
Was it a good night?
Yeah, it was.
Was it the
really
FT
good.
Awards?
Yeah, FT Advisor Awards at the National History Museum in London. The venue was exquisite, freezing.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it's big, isn't it?
I couldn't get warm at all. But the food was gorgeous. The entertainment was great. I had a little cry.
Did you? Because you mentioned that in your post, didn't you? That was genuine. You had
I could even have a little cry now, really, because, you know, when you put everything into a business, you know, it's like a massive part of your life. I know it sounds quite sad, but when you think about the things, or when I think about the things that are important to me, of course, like family, friends, my boys, like they come top. But after that, it is my business, and it's the people who are in the business. And I'm just so proud of every single one of us, because we try every single day. You know, we try to improve what we're doing. We reinvest everything into that business, you know, just to improve the proposition and what we're offering to people. And we do it all off our own back. We don't have investment or anything like that, you know.
You're self-funded.
So
self-funded, hard graft. You give everything to this.
Everything.
Yeah. It's a tough life.
And for that to be recognised is like, phew, you know, it's not just us. And we've got some other nominations. We've been nominated for Professional Advisor Awards. We've got a couple of them, a couple of nominations for their awards in March. So, yeah, it's...
But you always remember your first one, don't you?
Oh, it's very heavy as well. It's like a good one, you know. It's like, oh, yeah.
It's a real proper award. No, congratulations to you and the team as well.
Thank you.
Because it's not hard. But Mellow, even the name Mellow, where did that come from?
We wanted a name that was something that was completely different. I wanted a name that was quite brandable. So maybe like a 4 or 5 letter word that wasn't associated really with anything. So we could put our mark on a word that didn't exist. That was the thought process behind it. It also is part of the word melody. So there was some thought behind that. In, you know, it's a great big old racket if you've just got a load of people playing different instruments and nobody following the music at the same time. Whereas our aim is to bring strategy and structure to the businesses that we're working for and help them to work, you know, in harmony in that melodic way with one another. But that makes it sound like that kind of thought process came into it more. It didn't. It was much more about, let's create a word that's fun and a word that we can brand and we can make something.
So how did it come about then? Because you've been working in the industry or profession.
Yes.
I get told off for saying industry.
Oh, and
if Dave Robinson watches
they are
it.
Right to tell you
know.
off. Dave Robinson is right to tell
I know, he'll tell me off. He's like a school teacher.
I love Dave Robinson.
That'll just slap me. Was it if I'm wrong, let me know, was it the exit partnership?
Yes.
Right, okay. So that was what you were doing. And then what was the inspiration behind Mela? What did you want to do more than what you were doing at the exit partnership?
So the exit partnership was the M&A firm, essentially, right? So that was supporting business owners to find the right exit. And obviously with the name, it was pretty much what it said on the tin. And then a couple of years ago, I was on holiday, and you know what it's like when you go away and you've got like a week away from work and your brain's just like...
It's creative.
So cool, isn't it? You're like, what can we do next? And I had a bit of an itch to scratch because I had this recognition that the businesses that were coming to us, we were only really doing part of a job for. And I thought, gosh, if I could have got my hands on some of these businesses earlier, then we could have made huge improvements to them, to their attractiveness, to their value, to their potential before the exit point. So that was where we decided to expand out what we were doing. So rather than just supporting firms that were going, it's now whether you're growing or going, we're there to support.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Growing or going, I like that.
Yeah.
You can brand that one. That's good.
Yeah, I know.
And what are you seeing at the moment? What are the recurring patterns that advice businesses or owners are coming to you about?
Quite often, I would say they don't fully know what they're coming to us about. And that's fine as a first point. So owners will come to us usually with the thought of an exit in mind. It might not be an immediate exit. It might be in 3 years' time, 5 years' time. But we've really tried to make a point over the last few years of sort of hammering home the point that everybody exits. You know, at some point you will exit your firm. And we've been saying in presentations for years, you know, you either walk out, you're pushed out, or you're wheeled out. And guess what? Only option one is the route that you've got control over. And so often firms were coming to us at the point of exit, needing to go at that point, and they didn't have time to make those improvements and make those changes. So now we've got that ability to, you know, engage with the business, work out where they want to be, and work out a strategy to help them to get there.
So you've got different propositions for wherever a business is on their journey.
Yeah, but it's all about, for Mello, it's all about increasing and improving value. Now, we can't just dive into supporting firms to improve value until we've taken a look under the bonnet and made sure that actually what they're building on are really solid foundations from a compliance and regulatory perspective. But yes, from there it is about increasing value with a view to a future exit that these firms are working to. Now, we still have probably 60 or so % of firms that come to us and their requirement is to exit in the shorter term. So in those scenarios, we're checking exit readiness, we're helping them to prepare, we're taking them through the exit process. But if they've got time, capacity, the drive, the desire to actually increase value and attractiveness, then that's where we'll put them on a growth programme, where we'll help them with strategy and then roll our sleeves up to help them implement.
And what does that look like? So we can touch on the exit side, but if they're going through the growth strategy, what are the common pains at the moment? What do they need to focus on to actually grow that they're not actually focused on?
I think there's been a realisation recently that there's got to be more investment that goes into the business. What I tend to find when I meet any financial advisor is that the care, love, support that they show to their clients is beautiful. You know, even if things aren't documented exactly how the FCA want them to be, actually the relationship they have with their clients is really lovely, and nothing should take away from that. But what has often been neglected is that the business is not just the clients. The business is its own living, breathing entity. And now we've got to start investing in the business and in the operation. And the FCA have made that really clear as well, right? You know, they're like, we're data-led now. We understand the data. We expect you as business owners to have access to that data. So I think the whole, it's an interesting time because business owners are recognising, right, we've got to grab hold of this operation and we've got to start to invest in this operation. But maybe it's not the skill set of the owner, because maybe the owner has been that great person that has brought on clients and continues to, but perhaps they don't have, skills in other areas. And that's where outsourced or fractional support can really help those business owners to get to where they want to be. There's 4 pillars of sort of growth where business owners struggle. And what's really important is not just what these are, but the order. So people, proposition, process, technology. And they're the 4 aspects that you want to get working in harmony to have that operating model that's going to get you to where you want to be in a really safe and compliant way.
Okay, so people's number 1.
Yes.
Number 2 was?
Proposition.
Then process. And then your tech. So when we talk about people, because I love people.
I love most people.
Who do you not love?
No comment.
Off camera. So what do you do around the people side? Is that the skills setting? Is that looking at the skill set within the team, within the business?
Yeah, so there's a bit of that. There's a really good tool actually, which is let me get these letters right. GWC tool, which is get it, want it, capacity to do it, which is a really good way of looking very simplistically at your team to understand if you've got the right bums on seats. So absolutely you're right. It's, do we have the right bums on seats? Do we have people working in something that's giving them energy, right? And there's so much talk about energy, but it's so true, isn't it, James? Like I know you, even before we started this podcast, you mentioned the word energy to me a few times. It's obviously something that resonates with you. And if you want to get the most out of people, they've got to be in roles where they feel inspired, and it's something that they get an excitement out of. So, that's one part. But the people part is also about the leaders and the owner of the business, or the owners of the business, being able to provide to their people with clarity, what is our business all about? So that all of the members of the team feel motivated, that they've got a goal, they've got a purpose, and they all know their individual roles in actually helping to achieve that. So first of all, right, let's get the team on board with where we're going. Let's make sure they all understand the vision of the business, the mission that they're on, and how important their individual roles are in that. So that's why you start with people. In some cases, you work out you've got people in the wrong seats, so you make changes. In other scenarios, you work out that people ain't right. Maybe they've got you to where you are today, but maybe where you want to go is going to change the complexion of your business, and it's not right for them.
Yeah, it's a tough one though, isn't it?
So
it's because you talk about loyalty there, because they could look at it and go, well, I've helped you to get this far. And I understand that, but
it's a fairness on them though as well.
Well, you have to look at it objectively, because if you get too emotional about it and then you think, well, it's not right, they've been here for 15 years, you have to go back to what your vision is, what your purpose is. And as business owners, you've got to take that decision, you've got to go for it. And if people are going to hold you back, it will fall down anyway. You're just delaying the inevitable. But being in that situation, I know that can be quite tough when you've got quite a small team and you genuinely care for somebody.
I find it really tough.
Yeah, and that's not easy. So that even when you're talking about that, that's a lot of work.
And it's not like, although it's the thing you need to look at first, it doesn't mean you can go, right, now I've ticked off all those people boxes and, on I move to proposition. It's the regularity of coming back to that, and how do you then incentivize people to keep them aligned to that mission? How do you create an open dialogue culture, and how do you create the psychological safety so that people can have their say and have their views? The people aspect is ongoing all of the time. But certainly initially there's usually a little bit of work to do just to get everyone on the same page. Yeah.
And within Mello, do you have colleagues that focus on particular areas, or can one colleague focus on all of the 4 pillars?
It depends on the size of the firm that we're working with. If ever we feel like we need to bring in external support, then we do. So one of the things we say at Mello is these are the things that we do, and we know that we can do them really well. but what is everything that a financial planning firm needs to be as good as it can possibly be? And then it's us having, we call them our mellow mates. So who is everybody out there that you're kind of at the top of the profession, doing great things, bringing great energy, and we would then align with them to support our clients if our clients needed that. And that could be in any of the areas.
And your target market, who are you looking to help and support?
On the growth side of things, we're usually working with owner-manager businesses. They are probably at 200 to 300 million, typically, assets under advice. Obviously, there are some outliers. They might have ambition to get to $1 billion if they're in the growth with a capital G kind of mould. Some of them are in the growth with a small g mode, and that's not necessarily about taking over the world and building up the most AUM or AUA, as I should call it. Again, if Dave Robinson was listening,
it'd be on.
Sorry,
Putting notes on there.
Assets under advice. It might not be about that. It might be more about building operational efficiency, trying to increase value by making things more streamlined, trying to get a better work-life balance, or just trying to hit a slightly higher target to get that exit number that's going to mean that you can start the exit process. So, we have firms with varying objectives, but target firms kind of look like that. And then on the exit side, we're really there working with businesses. I would say typically our firms have enterprise values of somewhere between 3 and 10 million, maybe 80% of the firms fall within. And then we do have businesses that are obviously outliers to that. It pretty much follows the bell curve of financial planning firms, I would say, anyway.
Okay. And what's the exit market like? Because there's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of consolidation, there's been a lot of PE money that's come into the sector, profession. I would have thought by now that most of the good businesses that want to sell have been sold. But you're saying 60% of people are coming to you with that plan in mind. So what is the market like? What, in your opinion, because you've got your boots on the ground, you're seeing it. What's it really like? Why? Because obviously I want to get to the factors. What's reported is one thing, but what's it really like?
It's wild, baby.
Oh, go on then.
Oh, it's so wild, is the M&A space. I mean, there's so much going on all of the time. Thankfully, not all of the best businesses have sold. We're working with 40-odd businesses at the moment that are going through the exit process. And I think by virtue of the fact that the firms that, because of how we charge, we work for the sellers, we charge the sellers, we operate as part of their team, so to speak. The firms that come to us and appoint us, they do tend to be of a good quality, right? Because they're investing in their own exit and succession strategy. So fortunately, they haven't all sold yet, and there's still quite a lot for us to sell. I think the FCA have said they reckon something like 2,500 business owners are going to sell in the next 5 years. So the space is going to look very different.
That's pretty much 50%, isn't it?
It's age of advisors, and how many of those sales are going to be on the open market versus how many of those sales are going to be internal to the management team. Again, one of the things I love to see is businesses not selling, businesses, as in on the open market, businesses selling to their leaders, to their teams, to their management. But to get that right, that's a really long exit strategy. You've got to be planning years and years in advance.
Is this the MBO route? Yeah.
MBO or EOT. I wonder whether EOTs will be as popular now that there was a change in the budget yesterday around the tax relief on EOTs. So I wonder whether they'll remain as popular. But if you've got a team that you can transition the business to, that's amazing, right? But you're only going to do that by giving yourself a whole heap of time to actually be able to work with your team, train them up and pass on not just your clients, but your knowledge and your experience and everything that goes along with it. In the actual, in the market at the moment, we've had two huge things that have happened over the last couple of years. One, of course, being the consumer duty, which everybody knows about. And two being the, words. You might have to just edit this bit. Consolidation review.
There we go.
Or don't edit that bit and make it look like I just had a moment of madness. But look, both of those things are impacting hugely on the exit space. And if you think most of the money, private equity money that came into this space was between 2019 and 2021, the consumer duty didn't exist. AI was a term that, you know, probably only like your 18-year-old child was using, and you didn't really know what they were on about.
Yeah.
And there definitely was not the consolidation review. That wasn't even kind of a thing that was in focus or going to happen. So there was a lot of, dare I say, pretty poor purchases that were done. The acquirers, a number of them came to market at the same time. They had to get a foothold. So crazy valuations were offered, quite lax due diligence as well to get these businesses on board. But essentially, these private equity-backed consolidators, they did what they needed to do to get going. And for where we are now, consumer duty has come along, and that is not just about how you as an advisor run your business. That is about any big decision that you're going to make and the impact of that decision on your clients. And so, of course, that involves the sale of your business. And the buyer that you ultimately sell to, they've worked out how their proposition is consumer duty friendly. And you as a seller have worked out how your proposition is consumer duty friendly. But both parties now have to look at the ability to harmonise and integrate those two firms into one and produce valuable client outcomes. So there's a lot more focus now, thankfully, because we've been shouting about it for years, on the importance of integration. You only know what your business is sold for when you've had all of your money out. And the way deals are structured, typically in our space, you might get 50%, 60% on completion, and the rest of the money is split over a 2-3 year period. And it's dependent on something, right? That might be continuity of the clients, of the recurring income, of the profit, whatever that might look like. And so integration, we've had a saying for years, which is culture before cash. Right, get the cultural alignment right between the two businesses and the cash will follow. But now, with the consolidation review and with the consumer duty, that is playing out in real time. It's not just a buyer trying to snatch a deal or a seller trying to go for the highest number. The client outcomes absolutely should be at the
So do you think they're more aligned now?
Yeah.
Than they were?
They have to be.
Yeah.
And it's slowing things down. And it's making the whole environment more competitive. So if you're thinking about selling in the next few years, you're going to enter a really competitive space with much more discerning buyers that are going to have to spend a load more money on doing due diligence and in building integration plans and all that stuff. It's good, it's right.
Yeah.
But it's the reality. And that means...
So how do you know there's a cultural fit between two parties? Because the one thing that winds me up is, maybe I don't see it as much, but when there's a press release that there's been a purchase, and it's always the same message, you know, we sold because there's a true cultural alignment, and then 2 years later they're falling out. It always, I just think it creates a bit of a mockery, to be honest, and whether it's real.
Because people just use words,
don't
they?
It's like, we're great cultural alignment, and then suddenly there's not a cultural alignment because you've done your 2 years or 3 years and you've set up again. So what went wrong there? And I always think about, what about your clients? What's the message giving that? You know, what's the message you're portraying to your clients? But I've seen that a number of times. Every time somebody sells, there's always the cultural alignment. And I'm always interested, how on earth do you actually get cultural alignment? Because that's quite tough. It's quite subjective as well. Yeah,
and you only really know what somewhere's like once you're in there and once you're working with somebody. You know, one of the questions I ask the sellers when they first come on board is, if I picked up the phone and spoke to 20 of your clients and said to them, why do you use ABC Financial? And by the way, that was just a pretend name I picked out. There probably is an ABC Financial that might be listening going, hang on a second, why is she talking about my business?
Yeah. It's a creative name, that, isn't it, ABC?
So, I asked them, why, if I picked up the phone to 20 of your clients, why would they say that they use you? Now, if I ask the same question to your staff, why would they say that they work for you? Because that's starting to get to the heart of what really matters to these people. And that's often empowered by the culture that the owner is kind of filtered down from them, So I'm not, investment charges and investment philosophy and platform fees and stuff like that. They are all much more, they're numbers, right? So we can be like, you're going to get a better deal over here on that platform, or there's an investment proposition that's aligned to your philosophy or whatever it might be. But beyond that, there's a reason your clients use you. And I'm telling you now, if I rung them all, not one of them would say it's because of the Transact platform or it's because of the evidence-based investing proposition.
I'm surprised if you did hear that.
Yeah. So that starts to get into the heart of it, and it's the responsiveness, and it's the time that they turn things round, and it's the trust that they feel, and it's the engagement potentially. Some advice firms create communities of their clients, with events and webinars, and there's all sorts of bells and whistles, but it's the bells and whistles usually that the clients and the staff are there for. And it's those aspects that we're trying to align. So not just investment proposition and charges and the things that we can quantify, but let's try and align the things that aren't quantifiable. The other thing as well is there's different ways that you can kind of engage with brokers, right? Some brokers, the buyers will pay them on a successful purchase, but those brokers will only have access to the buyers that have signed their terms, essentially. So they might have 10 buyers, 15 buyers, 20 buyers. They might have all of the big 40 or 42, I think the number is. I think we've got something like 220 buyers on the books, and that number continues to grow because we've got that open market access. It's not just to the private equity consolidators, but anybody with an appetite to acquire can register on our system.
Okay.
So we can make introductions to local firms, regional firms, national firms, whatever. And again, it all comes back to the seller objectives. And when you've got a bigger pond to fish in, you've got more chance of getting that alignment piece right.
So how does it work then from a practical point of view? So let's say I've come to you, I've got an advice business, I have an exit in mind, and I'm going through the 4 pillars. How long does it take to, if you could actually give some kind of timescale, if I'm going through the process of actually creating a business with vision, purpose, values, moving it forward, and then looking to exit, let's assume I've got a standard sort of general business and I'm taking it to the next level. What sort of timescale could a business owner be looking at before they reach or have the conversations about an exit?
Start with the conversation about the exit, because starting with the conversation about the exit dictates what you can change and what you should change. So if somebody comes along and says to us, we'd love to be sat on a beach in 5 years' time, not having to worry about anything anymore, they need to start their exit planning today, because their actual deal itself, that could be 2 to 3 years, depending on the earn out. The actual process of getting ready for market, presenting yourself to market, and then going through kind of the whole exit journey, that in itself can take a year or so, possibly even longer. So, if you've got a 3 to 5 year time horizon to be fully out, then now's kind of the time to be thinking about it. When somebody comes to us and they say we've got a 10-year time horizon to exit, that's where you can start to really make some changes before you still got the exit as sort of your big audacious goal at the end. But it's like, actually, we've got the time here to look at the people, look at the proposition and see, do we need to make changes to the proposition? Do we need to streamline it? Is there any way we can add value? Is there any way we can increase fees? Look at those processes. How do we streamline the processes, those client journeys, make them as frictionless as possible, because that's going to improve profitability. And then finally, the tech stack to actually power the operation of the firm. If you're going to exit in a short window, there's not really any point in doing a load of that stuff, because certain things are going to have to change when you join a buyer anyway, such as they'll bring their own tech stack, right? So this is where it's got to start with, right, what's your end game? And even if you don't have it fully formulated, that's fine. Let's say backwards. Today, what's an end game? And then let's work back from there. And then it's, do you need to be in with the exit team going through their process, or do you need to be in with the progress team, the growth team going through their process?
Okay, there's two different teams then, depending on where they're at.
Yes.
Okay. And what about valuations these days? We've had some crazy valuations. Is it still like that? Is it expectations are a bit more moderate now? What's the landscape looking like?
I like to say it's a tale of two halves. So there was a point probably around 2020, 2021, 22, where all businesses were achieving like crazy valuations. You know, you had people selling, small books of clients that were achieving 8, 9, 10 times profit valuations on these books. And that was kind of a sign of the times, right? When you've got that much demand and you've got so many businesses that need to get these assets, that did cause prices to rally. And we probably saw a 20 to 25% rally. So anybody who did sell in that period of time, achieved great value, pre-consumer duty, didn't have to go through the due diligence process. And I actually look back at some of the firms we sold at that time, and they wouldn't have been able to sell today in their current state. Wow, we'd have had to do some significant work to get them up to standard. So now it is a tale of two halves, right? Because what you've got is you've got all these buyers. So although things are slowing down a little bit because they've got to be a lot more diligent, the FCA are a lot more focused on their bandwidth and their abilities to integrate, they've still got to buy. That's a big part of their business plan. They've got to buy, right? So they want to buy clean, tidy, neat, easy to integrate firms. And those businesses that come to market well prepared, well represented, and actual sellers, ready to sell, they are receiving values that are higher than I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
And is that based on profit?
Yes.
EBITDA, is that still the mechanism to do a valuation, a multiple of EBITDA? Is that where the market is?
Profit powers everything. I have this debate sometimes with sellers where they'll say to me, a business is still being valued as a multiple of recurring income, 3.5 times or 4 times recurring income. Offers may be presented to a seller as a multiple of recurring income, but behind the scenes, the buyer has looked at the profitability and the multiple of profit, because that is ultimately their return on investment. What really happens is they look at both valuation metrics to buyers. So they powered by profit, that's got to be the kind of one that drives valuation, because that's what's going to keep the lights on, is that profitability. But then they'll also look at the underlying recurring income that they're acquiring, and hopefully the kind of market parameters on EBITDA and on recurring income will somewhere overlap, and one valuation metric supports the others. So if you've got a business that is, let's just say it ticks all the boxes from kind of like an operational perspective and stuff like that, and it's generating 85% of its revenue from recurring income and 15 to 20% from new business fees, that business looks great. It'll achieve kind of towards the upper, I'm being very simplistic, but towards the upper level of those parameters, because it's got that good level of sturdy recurring income, but it's also demonstrating through new business fees that it can continue to grow as well. When a business is maybe 50% new business, 50% recurring income, the multiple that's offered can be reduced, because the level of recurring income and that stability of recurring income that powers the multiples isn't there. in that example. So we go through an exercise with sellers way before we take them out to market, where we do this exercise and we provide this indicative valuation, and we get them to look at their firm through the eyes of a buyer, because buyers always think businesses are worth less than the sellers
absolutely.
think they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
There's always a discount. I would assume that's still the case, because it's very personal to these guys as well, and this is their pension, this is their exit, it's everything.
Yes.
So there's still a mismatch then. I think I'm worth X, and I think you're worth Y.
But also, buyers are pricing experts. They've been on courses. Even if something came across their desk that had a price tag attached to it, and by the way, we don't send businesses out with price tags because we could be selling them for less than they could achieve. But let's say that a business came to market with a price tag and it was way under market value. The buyers would still... You know what I mean? Because that's their job. They're pricing experts. Yeah. And that's where sellers, they've got to have representation. They've got to have somebody in their corner that can, ensure that they really get across the opportunity that exists within the business that's being acquired, that has the confidence in the data and the numbers and the EBITDA to be able to challenge a buyer and say, no.
And is this what you do?
Yes.
Yeah, so you go and you hold your own because you know that business, they've been on the journey, you know everything about them, so you can have those conversations because you know what they're trying to orchestrate as well, because they're trying to get the best deal. So if I'm a seller, then I'll be working with you, and you would be that sort of front person in taking the lead.
Yeah. And we've
taking the flak.
Oh yes, let us take the flak. That's one of the things I always say to the sellers. Let us take the flak, because it's not like you're selling a house and you'll hand over the keys and off you pop. You've got to work with this buyer, even if you're only going to be there for a year or 2 years to do a handover. It's like you've still got to work with them. And as somebody who knows how quickly it felt horrible working in a business that you didn't want to be, it's not nice. So I'm like, I'm going to protect those relationships. I'll be the bearer of bad news. I'll be the one that takes the brunt, or we will be, as a team. Yeah, absolutely.
Does it take an emotional toll on you as well? Because you put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like from a recruitment perspective. No one likes bad news, but sometimes you have to deliver the bad news. But how does it affect you when you're going through this process with them?
It is sometimes quite a lot. I was having a conversation with somebody about that the other day, because again, we really do care. And I just have to remind myself, like, it's not my emotions, it's theirs. And however I feel, they're feeling, feeling it more. And that's my responsibility, is to try and take as much of that as I can from them. And so in that, you're not just taking the things that are going to take some jobs off the desk, but you're trying to take some of the emotional burden from them as well. And that's really hard. I don't like delivering bad news. And, when you've got to tell a seller that something's changed, or the buyer's pulling out, or the offer's whatever it might be, it's not a nice part of the job. But I'm glad it's us doing it, and then at least they're going to get kind of the arm around them and come on, we go again. We go again. Selling any business is not easy.
Yeah.
Selling a regulated business is hard. Selling a regulated business in a post-consumer duty world, what? Do not expect that it's going to be an easy process. And maybe it goes perfectly, but maybe it doesn't. And that's where we just have to pick up and go again. We've got some sellers where, we're second time round with them, because things are just outside of your control sometimes. And as best as you try,
it's tough. Yeah,
it's really tough.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who sold his regulated business, and he got, about a year ago, he got right to the end, and he went down to sign, and they just pulled it. No. Yeah, and then he came into my office actually, because we were just having a bit of a review, and I could see he was down, and there's legal costs as well.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, oh, okay, we go again. As in, it was, he was down, and But he's quite a resolute character. So we had a bit of a laugh about it. Say, look, mate, it wasn't supposed to be. You know, you can't miss what you've never had. So he went again, and he's just sold it this summer, actually, probably arguably to a better firm.
That's it.
And that's the point. But it was tough for him, emotionally tough for him and his family.
Yeah.
Because he was expected and he could do whatever he needed to do. And then suddenly they just changed it. And then they pulled out, but they were changing it at the last minute. Oh, it's now this. It's going to be this. And it was the constant tinkering. And then they pulled it. And it deflated him for a period of time.
It is awful. But we've had the same examples, same experiences for our guys. When they've had to go again, the new deal that they've gone for has been better. It doesn't help at the time, you know, when they're going through that and they've been told no or something's gone wrong. Like, that's horrible. There's no getting around that. But it has, touch wood, I don't think it's a real wood, but always worked out better for them in the end. We do, because we like to sort of project manage and coordinate everything. So beyond just making the introductions, we're kind of there all the way from conception of exit to completion. We will also advise on things like, or how we have a panel of solicitors, we have a panel of accountants and stuff like that. We don't have them on panel because we receive any kickbacks or anything. It is purely because we know that they'll do a really good job for the sellers. So one of the things that we will build into the legal side is a 50% cap on the fees should the deal fall down.
Okay.
With a view that the lawyers will then pick that case back up and run it again. So, you know, they'll keep a close eye on the clock, and that would be the worst case scenario. Now, like your mate, you know, if you've got all the way to completion date and essentially the legal work is done, you know, it's then, have you built anything into the contract to try to mitigate the full cost? So when we're selling businesses, we're so aware not just of kind of the headlines of what we're dealing with, but actually every aspect, like how can we protect them on the legals, how can we protect them on the tax? Yeah.
And I think if he was to have his time again, he would do it differently, and he would work with an expert to help him.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a very painful lesson.
Yeah.
So, Mello, growing to going.
Yes.
There's a place to be then.
Yes.
You're the go-to experts.
Yes.
And just before we get on to the what does the future look like, with the consolidation which is happening, if you were to look in the next couple of years, what do you think the sector will look like? Is it going to be as it is at the moment with like a cottage industry with some big firms? Are we likely to see bigger firms out there than we do at the moment? Where do you think it's going to land?
I think we're definitely going to see a lot of the bigger firms, right? Because one of the benefits, consolidators, they get a bad press and a bad rep, don't they? And you know what? Some of them deserve it. Some of them I won't give me dinner money to, let alone my business. But there are some great ones out there. And what consolidation has done is it's brought investment. And what our profession needs is investment. It has also brought a way out for sellers. There wasn't really a market for exits, and there is now. But the investment piece excites me because it's the investment to try to get hold of more of the unserved at the moment. And if you think all that consolidation is doing, and really all that financial advisors are doing when you look at the stats, is we're all operating in this 9% of clients.
Yeah,
and what this investment does that the big firms can bring is it provides these additional solutions, lighter touch services, remote services, wellbeing services, whatever they might look like, to be able to deal with far more consumers. And consolidators, big firms, love them or loathe them, they've got the bandwidth, the investment, etc., to be able to deal with more consumers on a mass market scale. So I think we'll see some growth. Do I think we're going to see the end of the small business owner? No. I think we're going to see the rise of the small business owner. We see the superstars breaking away
we do.
from a lot of these deals. Again, that comes down to a lack of strategy by the seller. We talk about the superstars with sellers way in advance of a sale. You know, and how important these people are to you, and how do we incentivise?
Because that's a risk. You lose your good people. That's a risk.
And, you know, they might pat you on the back for a moment and go, great work, I'm glad that you're now a millionaire, but, you know.
Yeah, what about me? Yeah.
So, like, you've got to bring the people along on the journey. But look, there are going to be these breakaways, and these breakaways are, you know, ambitious, young, exciting advisors that are creating some really great businesses. And although they might not have the investment to be able to go out on some grand scale, what they do have is a nimbleness to be able to build really tight, lovely operations that are scalable. And we're also finding that a lot of those breakaways are a bit more niche and nuance. You know, they're true financial planners, or they've got certain niches or certain levels of expertise that actually really works well in that small owner-manager business kind of setup. So, you know, for every firm that's bought, you know, there's going to be let's say there's going to be a breakaway on average. Obviously, in some firms there won't be, or they don't even have any staff. Some firms that are bought will be huge and they might have 3 or 4 breakaways, right? But that's why we're continuing to see new firms set up under AR, you know, as ARs or directly authorised. And I love that space. I love the owner-manager businesses and what they bring. So, you know, they're both going to have their place is my view. But do I think it's death to the SMEs? No. Do I think the FCA, because you hear this a lot, the FCA don't want small businesses? I don't think that's the case.
Oh, really?
I think they want well-managed businesses, you know. If they want businesses that understand their data and understand their clients and have strong propositions and have great governance. And, you know, in a lot of small businesses, unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily exist. It doesn't exist in some big businesses either. But there's a space for all.
Okay. So that does now lead us to the future, the crystal ball moment. But before we get on to that, is there anything that you feel that you should or you would like to talk about, Mello, just so we can just sort of close that chapter off?
No, I think for us, it's recognising that within your organisation, you have certain skill sets, and bringing in external check and challenge, bringing in somebody to help you to strategise and really understand where you are and where you want to be. You know, it's going to cost you, but it's going to repay that cost, you know, many times over if you get it right. So, yeah, if firms out there are, you know, interested in our insight on the growing or the exiting space, then please get in touch.
Great. And they can find you website?
Yep.
Contact you on LinkedIn as most people do.
mello.co.uk, yep, LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, then, Vicki, let's look towards the future then. So, crystal ball. What does the future look like for the sector? Because we were talking about AI, we've mentioned it briefly today. We've mentioned the impact of consumer duty, consolidation, that's coming in. But I am now interested with regards to, we are living in a massive period of change. There's no doubt about that. And I'm looking at the advice sector thinking, what does this look like in a couple of years? And we had a conversation a few weeks ago about AI and what that could do, but what does that actually mean? So I guess the question is, what does the future look like for a future fit financial advisor? And then also from a business perspective, it's a broad question, it's a big question. So if you could help break it down, that'd be really good.
I do wonder if there is some 18-year-old sat in a bedroom somewhere who's about to come up with something that could completely change our profession. And I went to an event a couple of weeks ago in Barcelona called Scaling Up, and they spoke about that, not in financial planning, but just in general, you know, the fact that there has been so many improvements with tech, and in particular with AI. What a lot of people are doing is they're using it to make their horses go faster. Whereas actually, who's going to come up with the car? And it's made me sit back and think, like, what is AI capable of? And the stuff that a lot of the AI providers kind of put out there at the moment, I think they're trying to maintain the status quo because they're talking about improving efficiencies. But these guys are at the cutting edge of technology, and they must know like what they're actually capable of really doing with some of this tech. I think pretty much the entire regulated piece is going to be able to be taken care of through AI relatively shortly, with a little bit of human interaction. But a lot of the regulated side is very factual. So risk profiles aligned to the portfolio, and finding the lowest cost platform with the functionality that you need, and that information then going from there into the cash flow modeler, and the cash flow modeler then having some what if scenarios in case things don't run to plan, right? And you're looking and you're going, wow, like the tech can do that already 70% of the way, 80% of the way. But that's a lot of what that's kind of the extent of what a lot of advisors are doing. And so what my concerns, I don't like using words like concern. I wonder whether we're looking enough at the changing consumer demands, or whether we're aware that consumers are going to change as AI and advice in your pocket becomes more common. Have you heard of a website? Have you seen a website called meetwarren.co.uk?
You've mentioned it. I've not checked it out.
You know, that's a free
is it an
online
advisor?
Cash flow tool. Yeah. Where you have a 10-minute chat with AI and you tell it your information and it provides you with a financial plan.
Have you tried it as well?
And again,
70%,
80% of the way there.
But I would, as of today.
I know that's it. Yeah. But I won't be looking at that as an advisor and thinking, well, that can't do a job as good as me, because it can't at the moment. I'd be looking and going, wow, it's not going to take much for that to be able to do a job as good as, potentially what I'm doing. So if you think about the travel industry and stuff like that, there's a firm called Lifetime, really good guy there called Andy. He came in as their COO, I think, but he came from the travel industry. And he was like, I watched the travel industry change completely as consumer demands and consumer interaction with the travel agency changed. Everyone went to a travel agent, then nobody went to a travel agent, unless they were doing some big grand, like I want to go to Kenya and I want my
safari or something big,
something amazing. And he'd watched that change come in, and through their business at Lifetime, they've created a very AI-enabled digital service that allows them to deal with clients across the full wealth spectrum, and that's really exciting. But I often think back to my chats with him and his focus on how they had to be so aware of consumers. And I thought, are we in financial planning aware enough of how the consumers want to take financial advice? I still speak to some advisors who think that clients want them in their houses at 7:00 at night. No, they don't. And stuff like that, right? And I just think that we are moving into a time where people are going to become a lot more financially aware than they have been, because actually there's a lot of information out there. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of noise out there as well, but there's a lot of information out there. And there could be a real downward pressure on fees if people are able to create solutions that can take a whole heap of the heavy lifting, and that starts to become commonplace and known by the consumers. I'm getting this service for £500 a year or whatever it might be, right? I think advisors might start to be challenged, and I think largely financial advisors and planners haven't been challenged. So you've just got to have, my view is you've just got to have that awareness of...
Because I guess I would be looking at it from a perspective of, okay, I've created efficiencies in my process, therefore I've reduced my costs, and I'm keeping a high level of profit. But what you're saying is actually there could be a downward pressure on actually the value of advice. So if you're thinking of it saying, I've just implemented all this good stuff and it's great and it's cost me 30% less, then actually what could be happening is other solutions are out there doing exactly the same thing for a lower price. So the consumer could be looking at it and going, well, you're offering me this at X and I can get it here for Y.
Yeah.
So there is going to be some kind of pressure or certainly some conversations to be had depending on where that lands.
And advisors on clients, I don't think really know. But what we're starting to see, and we will see more of, is the larger firms doing more mass advertising out to consumers. So like Fisher Investments, True Potential.
Yeah.
You know, they're going direct to consumers now with big advertising campaigns. You know, so part of the reason you don't get challenged on your fees is maybe because clients have no idea what they should be paying. Is 1% good? I don't know. Advisors charge 1%. Yeah, it's that sort of thing.
It's a standard.
So there's going to become more consumer awareness if some of these firms with deep pockets, big marketing campaign and a proposition that they can roll out relatively low cost, people start to become more aware of that. And I think what people think is, well, that's a service to kind of deal with the advice gap, and the clients that need the financial advice, the full fat financial planning, they're still going to be happy with the face-to-face service that we're providing. And I just think it's dangerous to just assume that. I think what we've got to be doing is constantly thinking of ways to improve what you're offering to clients away from the regulated piece of putting money into buckets. It's got to be more on the emotional side. It's got to be more around the relationship with money. It's got to be more around helping people to deal with all of the big life events that they're going to go through. Every big life event has a financial impact, but every big life event has a whole heap of other impacts. So I can see more the advisor planner's role actually moving away from the planning and moving more into that.
Interesting, isn't it? So just so I'm straight, so you think the regulated piece at some point could be done by artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
If that is the case, and that's removing the USP of an advisor with their technical knowledge, then what you're left with is the behavioural side, it's the emotional side, it's working with your client to understand their goals, aspiration, rather than my USP is giving you technical advice because I've done this for 150 years. See, is that where you anticipate the change?
Yeah. And then it also makes me ask the question, but is that right that it's financial planners? Actually, are we going to start to see more firms working with other specialists? I said like Mello before, it's like, this is everything we do because we know we do all these things well. But these are all of the things a business owner needs to build a great business. It's kind of that same principle, but for clients, for somebody to successfully get through their lives, what do they need?
Yeah.
And they need financial awareness. They need to understand the relationship with money. They need to make sure that they're investing at the right level and it's going into the right funds and it's into the right tax buckets, right? I get all of that. But what else do your clients need to get through life successfully? They need support with children that are having issues, with parents that might be suffering from dementia, with divorces that are leading to a loss of assets, with a change in career, with mental health issues, right? It's not enough just to support somebody with a financial plan and say, look, we're okay. And even if there's a market dip, you're still okay. It's like, how do we offer more? And does that mean that advisors, planners need to be trained up more in coaching and in well-being and in behaviour and all that stuff. Yes. But does it also mean that maybe it's not right for some of them because they are more technical than actually have that ability to get to the heart of issues that clients might have?
It's crazy to think about it, isn't it? And this is happening in our lifetime, and it will happen.
It's happening.
I think when people say, and I say it all the time, AI won't replace me or won't replace an advisor. I just think just stop, because we're at day one. This has got the ability to learn at a faster rate than we've ever done. We've let Pandora out of the box, and we're not going to put it back in. It's quite scary. So on the assumption that you think it won't take your job, it will probably at some point take everybody's job, because it's not going to stop. It's just going to get better and better and better. The timescales, I don't know. But when I hear these things, I think just wake up a little bit, see what's happening, because there's a race for domination within AI, and it's learning. It's cognitive. It's the first time we've created something like this. So it is crazy. When I've been on, I've had lots of different people to talk to about this, and it's just going to get better. But I always think, I'm hoping it's going to be a few years anyway. But at the moment, if I was as a business owner, or if I was an advisor, I'd be looking at the human element. I'd be looking about how you engage with people, because this other tech stuff will be taken away. It's not your USP anymore. It can't be. But it's a scary time in a way. Yeah. It's hugely exciting and a bit scary at the same time.
It challenges the existing model for sure. And bearing in mind, the existing model has just got a whole load of investment from a load of private equity companies over the last few years that have
gone, must be looking at this
we
as well.
like that model, let's buy that model. And then something's come along and it's gone, we can maybe do what a lot of clients are paying for, right? And I see the good and the bad of businesses out there, right? So I don't want people to think that what they're providing is not good value. I see some amazing businesses, financial planning firms that are, allowing and empowering their clients to live amazing lives. They are there. And also those firms are looking forward, but there are a lot of businesses that, in my view, are doing essentially what tech is capable of doing or could be soon. And on the AI point, I was reading something the other day, they were saying the human side of things, like, people still value the human. I think AI, the second biggest use now for AI is counselling and
it's therapy. Yeah.
The most human, one of the most human things, professions. Yeah. Or industries or sectors, whichever.
It's mad. You've outsourced it, your emotion to an algorithm, to predictive text. And, I use AI every single day.
Me too.
It's my system.
It's my sounding board.
Yeah, I do. I'm like, check in, and it'll say, James, you haven't done this, And I've trained it to be quite sharp and to the point. Don't give me the fluff. Just get to the point, And then sometimes it can be a bit aggressive when I've given it some work to check. And I'm like, actually, it could be a bit more complimentary. but it is crazy. It is now very much part of my life. Yeah. And you do outsource part of the conversations you would have with your partner or a friend to whatever AI you're using. And it's weird. And
how quickly has this happened as well?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. I've been using it for a couple of years, but it was very much in its infancy. But now I don't know what I'd do without it, which is weird. Maybe I need to sense check myself a little bit.
Things are changing. They are, right? You cannot have a change like, the advancements of AI and it not impact. And we're in this funny in-between bit at the moment, where right now what AI providers are saying is right. If you use AI to do your note taking, check X, Y, and Z, right, whatever it might be, run your suitability reports, even some of them are starting to work their way into compliance and, checking the cases and things like that. you can create more efficiency, and through creating more efficiency you can deal with more clients, and by virtue of kind of those two limbs you can increase your profitability and you can increase your value, right? And I think that we are in a very small moment in time where that actually does apply.
Yeah.
You cannot, the economics, markets, they don't allow that. They don't allow that ability to just increase and increase and increase and increase profits and expect that the consumer at some point isn't going to become aware of that and wants to benefit from some of that increased profits. So it's very simplistic to look today and say, if I can get rid of 20% or 30% of my cost operation because I can move to AI and I can improve efficiency, then I can increase my business value by this much. I just don't think that thought process considers external market factors and the impact that they're going to have and the new models that are going to pop up.
What would you advise business owners to look at now?
AI, because I don't think that it's about using AI to necessarily increase your business value. If what I'm saying is right and natural kind of market forces adjust things back into normality, I think that adopting AI is actually protecting your existing value. Businesses in the current world have a value, but if that world changes and they don't keep pace, then those business values are seriously impacted. So I think you've got to look at AI, even in a small way, be that for, as I said, note-taking and using it for additional governance and stuff like that, right? Use the tools that are around you, but don't necessarily think it's going to be a longer-term value creator to the extent that some people are talking about, but I definitely see it as a value protector. Businesses have got to keep pace with what's going on out there.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to be lost.
Yeah.
And so if you are looking at AI and you're looking at streamlining your workflows, your processes, your note takes, all of that, what's your advice on the people side? Because that's your first pillar, isn't it? So, because I think personally this is a case of now looking at, and I had this conversation with Octopus Money, and they open source, as they call it. You can see what they're doing, but they have coaches now.
Yeah.
They have coaches to work with the consumer, and the coach is there to understand what the consumer is ideally looking for. So, and the coach, although is qualified, is not regulated. The advice piece is given by the tech. So they do a lot of research.
Right.
So they do a lot of research with regards to that customer journey, because this is where you get, I think there's a real disconnect with the man or woman in the street. They're not thinking about financial advice. Sometimes it's a case, I just need to get through to the end of the month. I need to pay my mortgage. And we don't do enough at schools either. We are so bad. We don't teach our kids how to basically budget, or even what is a budget. Luckily my kids do know what a budget is. Thank God. It's the only thing I did do well. But I think the Octopus Money model is really interesting, to have a coach, consumer, coach, regulated piece, and then it keeps going around. And if there is some full fat financial planning where it is very complicated and the business sale or whatever, then there are people on hand. But that's their journey, and they keep trialing it, and they're looking at consumer behaviour. At what point do they drop off, and what do they need to improve? Or by questionnaires, and it's psychology, it's behaviour. It's really changing it. So the financial planner, although qualified, is a coach.
Yeah, proposition and process. So people, proposition, process, technology, right? And when we're looking at the process side of things, I think that's where you really zoom into, right, if this is every single step of each process that a client is going to go through, from onboarding to new business to top-ups to annual reviews, what parts of those processes can be done by tech? What parts of those processes can be done by the human? And it comes back to getting employee engagement to make change like this in a business. Because even when you as an owner think, I'm going to implement this change and it's going to make things better, initially it's going to make things worse because you're changing the systems that people are used to working on, even if they're old and clunky. So there's an element of change management that needs to go along with doing anything like this within a business, and that's how you win the hearts and the minds of the team members. And also it's usually the people who are working on the floor, so to speak, that actually really understand, like use the collective knowledge of your team to really understand those client journeys and how to streamline them. And if they feel engaged in the process because somebody's told you from an administrative perspective what annoys them, where the blockers are, when they have to type things in more than once, all the things that get in their way, you're hearing them, you're adapting your processes to them and their experiences. And then, as we said, finally, after people, proposition, process, it's technology.
The tech,
So then it's bringing in the tech. So many business owners, they rush to the tech because they think that the tech is a silver bullet to the problem.
Never is.
But all that they're doing, they've found a symptom. They've not found the real problem. Sometimes they think, our back office system's the problem, or this is the problem. And when we actually sit down and we look using those 4 pillars, usually the problem starts right back at people. Or it's something to do with your proposition being way too wide and way too broad, So, yeah, it all plays into one, really.
Are you largely positive about
the
future, Vicki?
I'm just always positive.
You
Yes.
seem a very positive
I
person.
I am, to my detriment, I think, sometimes. But no, it's the way that I am. I am absolutely positive about this. One of the things I said to you at the start was the reason that I've always loved the profession is because of what the profession does for people. Right? And now I'm like, we don't have to just do things for 9% of people. We can do things for way, way, way more people, right? The number of financial advisors out there, there's not enough. And so for anybody that wants to get on board, like there is a role and there is opportunity to use the word I use earlier on, right?
Good,
so
yeah.
I am absolutely buzzing about it, but there's going to be some casualties along the way, and those casualties are the ones that don't think that any change is coming or don't think that there could be some rapid change. And I think when you're business planning, and anyone should have a 5-year business plan, you should be looking at what the threats are to that business plan. And if you don't have AI and firms being able to run new propositions on your threats list, get them on there.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, that was a good positive ending, I think.
Yeah.
To the. Is there anything you would
Did
like?
Did it get a bit doomy gloomy in the middle there for a moment?
No, I think. No, it didn't.
Good.
It didn't. I think. I see. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I really don't. And you can end up worrying about it. But I think you need to have an eye on the future. But I do see that there is huge change happening. But I would say get on board with it.
Yeah.
I do feel that a lot of people are looking at AI and just thinking it's note-taking or it's content. It's a lot more than that if you implement it properly.
Yeah.
But I also would go back to your first point that you need in your business to have a vision. You need to really understand where your business is going. What problem is it trying to solve? And then articulate that. And then it resonates through the whole team. Because without that, you'll drift anyway. And you'll be swallowed up because somebody else is going to do it, whether they're 18 or 85, they're going to do it anyway. So no, I don't think it's gloomy. I think it's hugely. I can see huge positives moving forward, and if we're only serving 9% of the population, then we can do so much more and capture those people, rather than wait until they've accumulated wealth.
Yeah.
Capture them, build the relationships with them. Because I get a bit pissed off when people say, when you've exited, James, come and see me. It's like, why don't you build a relationship with me now? It's a bit arrogant. Why do you think I'm going to choose you? Which I won't anyway.
No. I know some really good advisors, James. Don't you worry, I'll sort you out.
I'm sure you know a lot of people.
I know some good ones, yeah, that's for sure. No, there's opportunity there. And I think as well, right, if it's not for, you've got to know your point to get out. It's the whole walk out, pushed out or wheeled out point that I made at the start. Some people hang around too long. We all know that person. It's maybe a client that we've had, or a friend or a family member, you know, somebody where you've been going, it's your time now. You know, leave when you can walk out of that door with your head held high, achieving the value for what you've created to that point, high-fiving your team members on the way out. If actually this next phase of the journey isn't one you're going to be able to keep up with. Otherwise, you run the risk of, you know, your business starting to wither on the vine a little bit, and your staff starting to think, oh, hang on a second, you know, do I go somewhere else that's a little bit more dynamic? They are using AI. They are talking about the, you know.
Yeah.
So I think as a business owner, we've got duties to our clients, of course, and to our staff, but you know, you've also got a duty to yourself and to your family for all of the, you know, things you've done throughout your career and the risks you've taken and everything else to exit at the time that's right for you. And for some people, James, looking forwards at this next phase, it is the point where it's best for them to look to exit.
Next challenge. So leave financial planning before financial planning leaves you.
Yeah, Usain Bolt was still sprinting at the finish line.
There you
as they say, you know.
That's a good one.
Buyers want to buy growing. They want to buy businesses when there's some, you know, about them still. Yeah. It's very challenging, especially in such a competitive space now, to sell a firm that is essentially withering on the vine a little bit because there's too many other options.
There is.
For buyers to go at.
So before I ask you my final question, like a Columbo moment, is there anything that you want to mention about the future? Is there anything that you feel that you want to end on because it's important to you?
I would say for people, when they are looking at AI or tech or anything like that, to always focus on protecting their business first and foremost. What is going to become more and more of a risk to business owners is the threat of their data being breached. And I not personally have experienced this, but I know of other people who work in the data space where, you know, they've been called by business owners who are close to exchanging on contracts for sale and stuff like that, who have found that their business value has been knocked down by 40%, 60%. In one case, the buyer walked away because of concern around data security. And that, I think, is one of the biggest risks when firms are bringing in AI and technology or trying to find a free tool or something like that. It's like understanding where does that data sit and the risk to your business if you have, you know, some form of data breach. So, you know, as much as we talked today about, you know, growth and profit and all that good stuff, right? It's like it's you all of that is irrelevant if actually you've not made sure that what you're doing is super safe. And I know for us at our business, look, no business is bomb-proof, but the amount we spend on data security, like it's a big spend for us. You know, I have passwords on passwords to get into absolutely everything. So I just think what I'd say to anyone listening is if you are embarking on any sort of change or whatever that might look like, just control that data. Completely control that data, because that could be a massive risk if that goes wrong.
That could be, yeah.
That's doomy gloomy.
That is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. It's very fair. It's very fair. You need to get your data right. And it's only going to get worse with regards to all the attacks that we're having. So Vicki Hicks, thank you very much for coming in today. But I do have one final question.
Go for it.
So this is my magic wand question. So I'm going to give you a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can make one wish, and you can wish for anything. What would be that wish and why? Anything.
Wow.
The power is with you on this one.
So it doesn't have to be in relation to financial planning. It could literally
Just one wish for anything.
Anything. One wish. My one wish so hard. Some of the things that are coming to mind, I'm like, do they just sound really like cliche and like what everybody would say? How hard is this? One wish, you could have at least given me 3. And then I could have played around with a couple.
It's Yorkshire a bit tight up here with wishes.
I know you are. Okay. I don't want to say this is like my one big wish, because people might think that it's a bit me central, right? But actually, I really hope for myself that when I get to the end of this career in financial services, that I do look back and I am really proud of what we've created, and I'm proud that I've elevated people, and I'm proud that we've made a difference. One of the things that I suppose does worry me when you're trying to sort of shrink your career because you want to go and do something else, and when you've got ambition, as I know you do as well, is I don't ever want to feel like I regret not making the most of the time that I had, or the impact that I think everyone is capable of having, by the way, to whatever level you kind of want to have an impact. And whilst I have definitely not always made the right decisions, and whilst, there are times in my career that have been, truly awful, I don't have any regrets. And I am proud of what I've achieved so far, and that I've scrappy-dooed my way at times to get in there. And that's my kind of one wish on that professional level. I have lots on the sort of, the broader thing, I want to help people, right? That's how I started with all of this, okay? But I'm taking that wish actually for myself, James, and hoping that I get to the end and I am proud of what I've done, and I don't have any regrets.
It's very good, and I'm sure you will do.
What's yours?
What's mine?
Yeah, I'm going to pass you the magic wand.
No one's asked me that before.
No one's given you a positive potato before, so it's a day of firsts.
It is. I'm going to not steal somebody else's, but one person I asked this question. This really resonated with me. I would wish for that everybody could experience joy. Because so many people don't.
No, they really don't.
So, because there's all the issues that we have in the world, and I think if you had people that could, you talk about making an impact, a positive impact, when you have that feeling of joy and contentment, that to me is just, I would want that for everyone. So that'd be my wish. So thank you for asking me.
It's did I hear a little bit of Midlands accent?
Yeah, I'm from the Brook.
It just came out then, right at the end.
Yeah,
you were doing so well.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Wait, it's this mindfulness piece as well, isn't it? It's trying to really live in the present. There is so much in that, trying to work out what you're truly grateful for and the joy that brings, because it is so easy to just doom spiral with the noise over there. And if you do sit and dwell, you can think of so many things that are wrong. Everyone's going through stuff, aren't they, with family members and friends or whatever, and it can be easy to lose the joy. And you're right, you can handle anything when you've got,
because all we have is now.
Happiness.
There is no future, there is no past. It's just now. And we condition ourselves to, we need to plan ahead, and I know that, but I think where I've changed over the years is, this is like therapy for me now, Vicky. I think it's more about finding me rather than the performative me, or this is what people expect of me. I think once you know and understand yourself and you're aligned to a purpose, it gives you clarity. Clarity then helps you plan then helps you gather people around you to almost in a way follow you on this journey. So I think at the moment we are going through rapid change, and we are doom scrolling, and we've got the algorithm which will literally just tell you what it thinks it needs you to hear. And actually just step back, appreciate what you've got, and appreciate now, because you have no idea what's going to happen, and appreciate the family and the friends that you've got around you. They're important. They're going to be with you, not your car, not your house, We've just got such a small amount of time on this earth. Make a difference. Even if you help one person, you've made a difference.
Yes. That's so right. You're so right. It was quite empowering. There was a point in my life where I stopped caring about things. And it was a really, really
Is that recently?
empowering moment. Over a decade ago, so not within my current guise, but whilst I was working. I don't know if it was a maturing, a getting older, I don't know what it was. But there was just something in me that stopped being interested in things. You know, I always had every 3 years you'd get the new car, you know, and you'd go and it would be, you know, shopping in certain places and handbags. And I don't know, there was just a shift in me that just said, this stuff doesn't matter. And this stuff is the stuff that anchors somebody into a life that they don't want to be in because they can't get out.
Yeah.
But you're so right, you only live today. I think it's like a Buddhist phrase, I think it is, that says if you're living in the past, that can be depression. If you're living in the future, that can be anxiety. And really the only state that exists is
now.
Right now.
Yeah, you can look back with either fondness or regret, and you can look to the future with positivity or fear.
Yeah.
So we're in this cycle again. So just now, today, this minute, enjoy.
It's all right, isn't it?
It's all right, isn't it? That's how we are.
Thank you, Jim.
Vicki Hicks, thank you very much for joining me
You're
today.
very welcome, sir.
It's been a pleasure, been a great guest, and well, I'm sure we'll keep in touch.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.